The Galactic Council had watched Earth for centuries. A tiny planet on the outer rim of a forgotten sector had been quarantined, sealed off from the rest of the galaxy, because its inhabitants were too unpredictable, too chaotic. The species that lived there fought wars among themselves, destroyed their own environments, and seemed on the verge of self-destruction. It had been decided long ago that humanity was not ready to join the greater galactic community. It was too risky, too dangerous. Their leaders knew the galaxy was full of ancient and powerful civilizations, species that had mastered the stars and had known peace for eons. But the humans, they were still learning, they were still too wild. So Earth had been isolated for centuries. Their attempts to communicate with the galaxy blocked their ships, destroyed their technology, monitored every day, under the assumption that it was best to keep them in check, to leave them to their own devices in their own corner of space, where they could do no harm. But deep within the dark silence of the quarantine zone, something had changed, something no one had expected. Earth was silent no more. A strange signal broke through the monitoring systems, faint at first, barely noticeable, a whisper in the vast emptiness of space. But it didn't stop. It grew stronger, clearer, more defined as the days passed. It was not the usual garbled mess of human attempts at communication. It was something entirely different, and the Council had no explanation for it at first. They thought it was a mistake, perhaps a misfire of some ancient piece of technology from Earth's past. But the signal continued, it persisted, and it was growing stronger as the weeks went on. The Council convened in haste. This transmission had to be examined. Was it another desperate attempt from a group of isolated humans, hoping to reach out to the stars? Or was it something more? This signal was too structured, too purposeful, to be dismissed. The factions of the Council, each with their own biases and histories with Earth, debated over the next course of action. Some said it was a mistake. Some thought it was a trap. Others believed it was the first sign that humanity had finally found a way to break the chains of their quarantine and reach out once more. Others wanted to silence the signal, erase it entirely. But no one could ignore it now. It was undeniable. The humans were attempting to communicate again. Captain Miranda Holt stood at the helm of a small but sleek vessel orbiting Earth. She was the first to receive the message. The transmission was unlike anything she had ever seen. She watched in awe as her screen displayed a clear message from the humans. "We are ready," it said, simple yet so profound. And beneath that, words that echoed in her mind, a promise not of conquest or war, but a quiet declaration that humanity was no longer bound by the chains of their quarantine, no longer willing to live in isolation. This was not a plea for mercy. It was a challenge to be seen for what they truly were, a species capable of far more than anyone had realized. The humans were ready to prove themselves, ready to take their place among the stars, ready to show the galaxy they were far more than the chaos they had once been. They had waited long enough, and now they were coming. The moment Captain Miranda Holt's message echoed across the vast expanse of space, the entire Galactic Council was in chaos. They had not expected this. The humans had broken free of their quarantine zone, and now stood before them as an undeniable force. The New Dawn, a ship of unprecedented design, drifted just outside the boundary of Earth's atmosphere, its presence a quiet but undeniable challenge to everything the Council had decided so long ago. Council leaders from across the galaxy gathered in emergency session that Cylon, the ancient Psionics who had lived for millennia and prided themselves on their vast knowledge of the stars, convened alongside the Joran, a race known for their brutal military might. The Vertra, empathic beings who could feel the intentions of others, were equally perplexed at what was unfolding. The Council had always prided itself on its foresight and control, but now they found themselves reeling. How had the humans managed to build a ship capable of breaking through their blockade? How had they found a way to reach out after so many years of isolation? And what did this mean for the future of the galaxy? The signal the humans had sent was not a mere attempt at communication. It was a statement, and it was clear the humans were no longer asking for permission. They were demanding a seat at the table. It was unprecedented, and in many ways unnerving. The human ship hovered silently in space, a symbol of their defiance against the centuries-old isolation. The representatives of the Council had never expected humanity to be capable of such an act. They had underestimated them completely. Many species in the Council had been quick to dismiss humanity as nothing more than a chaotic and unruly species, too volatile volatile, to be allowed into the greater galactic fold. They had assumed that Earth was a dangerous anomaly, a planet on the brink of self-destruction, too wild to be contained or understood. Yet here they were proving everyone wrong, proving that they were far more than the volatile species they had been written off as. Humanity had grown in their isolation, and the galaxy would soon learn just how much they had changed. Captain Holt stood at the command center of the New Dawn as the massive ship began to turn toward the stars. Her heart raced with a mixture of excitement and resolve. They had spent years preparing for this moment, years of secret development and silent work on the fringes of galactic space. They had known the Council would never allow them to break free without a fight, but they had never expected humanity to be able to do it on their own. They had built a ship capable of standing toe-to-toe with the galaxy's greatest powers, a ship that could carry the hopes and dreams of every human being who had lived in isolation for far too long. And now it was time to make their move. The New Dawn sent out another signal, a clear, unambiguous message to the galaxy. "We come in peace," it said. "We come to join you to share our knowledge and our future, but we will not beg for a place among the stars. We will earn it." Holt's words resonated deeply within her. The path forward was uncertain. The Council was powerful, but humanity was no longer the chaotic species they had once been. They had learned, they had grown, and now they were ready to show the galaxy who they truly were, ready to prove that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. The transmission from New Dawn sent ripples across the Galactic Council. Representatives from all the major species, from the highly evolved X-Island to the militaristic Joran, gathered in the central chambers, their holographic screens flickering as they debated. Earth, a planet they'd once deemed too volatile to interact with, had now shaken the very foundations of their isolationist policies. The Council's leaders, those who had reigned for millennia, were forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. Humanity was no longer the species they'd feared, but something far more complex, far more determined. "Shall we engage with them?" asked one of the Zoran generals, his compound eyes narrowing as his antennae twitched. The Zoran had always been on the front lines, protecting the galaxy from perceived threats, and Earth's sudden emergence had not sat well with them. A long silence followed as the Tylan Chionics exchanged looks. They had watched Earth closely for centuries, studying the chaotic humans from afar. Their vast mental abilities gave them insight into the deepest corners of the universe, yet even they could not have predicted humanity's capacity for growth. "They are different now," the X-Island leader said softly, her voice carrying a tone of unease. "Too different. Their growth, it is not as it was before. They are evolving in ways we cannot fully predict." The Vertra, a race known for their deep empathy and emotional intelligence, looked to one another, sensing the underlying tension. The Vertra were the first to voice support for humanity. "We have sensed their sincerity," one of them stated. "They do not come with demands but with an offer, an invitation. They wish to join us, not conquer us. We must give them a chance." The Joran were less convinced. "The humans are unpredictable. How can we trust them after everything they have done? How can we allow them to roam free among the stars when they were once on the brink of self-destruction?" Despite the fears that still lingered, the Council voted to open the lines of communication with humanity. A diplomatic envoy was dispatched to make first contact, but they were nervous. What did humanity want? Why now? The questions piled up faster than answers could be given. The New Dawn received the Council's invitation. Captain Miranda Holt stood at the helm of the ship, her fingers trembling slightly as she keyed in the command to respond. She could feel the weight of the moment, the years of isolation that had built up to this one defining moment. The galaxy, in all its complex beauty, was opening its doors to humanity. But what would they find inside? Would the Council be receptive, or would they see humanity as just another threat to control? The New Dawn's comm system hummed to life, and a calm voice spoke across the vast distance between Earth and the Council's central station. "We are ready," Captain Holt replied, her voice steady. "We come in peace, as we said before, but we come with purpose. We will show you who we are, and we will prove that humanity has earned the right to stand among you." As Holt spoke, Her mind raced. What if the Council rejected them outright? What if they saw humanity as a threat despite the years of peace and progress they had made? But Holt knew one thing for sure. Humanity had changed, and they were no longer the species the Council had abandoned long ago. Earth had grown stronger, smarter, and more united than anyone could have predicted. It was time for humanity to take its place in the galaxy, and Holt would make sure the galaxy knew exactly who they were. The Galactic Council was on edge as humanity's ship, the New Dawn, docked at the central station of the galaxy's governing body. The massive station, a floating city of glass and steel, hovered in the heart of a neutral zone, a place where the Council's most powerful species convened to deliberate on matters of universal importance. It was a place of ancient diplomacy and wary alliances. Now it was about to witness humanity's first true step into this vast, interconnected world. Captain Miranda Holt stood at the airlock, flanked by a small team of human diplomats and scientists. They were armed only with their knowledge, their principles, and their sheer willpower. This wasn't about guns or weapons. This was about humanity's capacity to forge a new future, a future that didn't rely on isolation, but on collaboration and growth. When the airlock opened, they were greeted by a delegation of Council representatives, alien species that had once considered humanity a wild, dangerous species. The Zoran, their six-legged insectoid bodies glistening with iridescent armor, stood front and center. Their leader, General Stack, was the first to speak, his voice a deep, rumbling growl. "Humans," he began, his compound eyes narrowing as he scanned the group of diplomats. "You have broken our quarantine. You stand on the threshold of something you do not understand. You think you come with peace, but what do you know of our ways? What do you know of the complexities of the galaxy?" Holt met the Zoran leader's gaze without flinching. "We've learned more than you might think," she said calmly. "We've spent centuries working to overcome our own limitations, our own violent tendencies. We've built a society based on cooperation and progress, and we've learned that the galaxy, too, can thrive if we work together." The Thailand leader, an ancient and wise being who seemed to carry the weight of eons on her slender, translucent frame, spoke next. "You speak of peace, human, but how can we trust you? You who were once on the brink of self-destruction. How do we know you will not turn on us?" Holt took a deep breath, choosing her words carefully. "I understand your fears. I understand that we are not the species you once thought us to be. We are different now, and we are not asking for your trust. We're offering you our cooperation, our technology, our knowledge, and most of all, our willingness to stand beside you, not against you." The Vertra, who had been quietly observing, exchanged looks of curiosity. They were empathic beings, capable of sensing emotions and intentions far beyond what most species could comprehend. One of their leaders, a tall being with fluid skin that shimmered with subtle colors, finally spoke. "We feel no deception here," the Vertra said, their voice soft and calming. "The humans, Captain Holt, specifically, are sincere. They do not seek conflict, only understanding. And we believe they are ready to join us in building something greater." The room grew quieter. The debate was not over, but the presence of the Vertra had shifted the tone. Their empathy was not easily dismissed, and their words carried weight. Captain Holt knew this was only the beginning. The Council was not a body easily swayed, and the factions within it were too diverse, too powerful, to be convinced by words alone. But humanity had never been afraid to face the impossible. If this meeting was to be their first step into the stars, they would make sure it was one worth taking. "We are ready to contribute to the future of this galaxy," Holt said firmly. "We are not here to take. We are here to build. Together." The silence in the room lingered for a moment, thick with uncertainty, but also with something else. Hope. For the first time in centuries, humanity had made its presence known, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Tensions escalated rapidly in the aftermath of humanity's first contact with the Galactic Council, while some factions, like the Vertra and the Attilan, were cautiously optimistic about the humans' newfound diplomacy and technological advancements. Others, especially the Joran, viewed the humans as an unpredictable variable in the delicate balance of galactic power. Captain Miranda Holt's words had been received with mixed reactions. The galaxy's greatest powers, who had once been certain of their dominance, now found themselves questioning their assumptions. The Joran, in particular, were unwilling to let go of their old prejudices. To them, humanity was a reminder of everything they feared: chaos, instability, and the potential for violence lurking beneath the surface of any species. But Holt and the humans were not about to back down. They had been isolated for centuries, forced to live under the Council's watchful eye. They were not asking for permission anymore. They were offering something far more valuable: collaboration. Despite their peaceful intentions, the humans were not naive. They knew they had to prove themselves in ways that words alone could not accomplish. It was time to show the galaxy what they were truly capable of. As if on cue, the Joran struck. A Joran war fleet, massive and imposing, appeared at the edge of the neutral zone. The Council's military arm was renowned for its speed and precision, and the Joran were the galaxy's most feared fighters. A sudden, aggressive move toward the new dawn sent shockwaves throughout the Council. The Joran had come to test humanity, to remind them of their place. Holt's heart raced as the comm systems buzzed with urgent messages. The new dawn had to react, and quickly. "Captain, we've detected a Joran fleet closing in on our position," her communications officer, Lieutenant Garrus, reported. "They're preparing for a blockade. They want to force us back into quarantine." Holt gritted her teeth. This was exactly what she had feared. The Joran would not allow humanity to pass without testing their resolve. If humanity's message of peace was to mean anything, it had to be proven on the battlefield. "We won't back down," Holt said with unwavering determination. "Prepare the fleet. We need to show them we're not just here to talk." The human fleet was small but well-equipped. In the years of isolation, humanity had developed highly efficient ships that could outmaneuver larger, less agile vessels. While the Joran were known for their strength in numbers and heavy firepower, the humans had learned the value of speed and precision. Within moments, the new dawn activated its defensive shields, while smaller human ships flanked the Joran fleet, darting in and out with incredible agility. It was a game of cat and mouse, with the Joran struggling to land a hit on the nimble human ships. Holt's mind raced as she coordinated with her fleet, guiding them through a series of tactical maneuvers designed to wear the Joran down, rather than engage in an outright confrontation. "Target their command ships," Holt ordered. "If we disable their leadership, the rest of the fleet will fall apart." The battle was swift and intense. Joran warships tried to corner the humans, but their agile movements and expert coordination made it nearly impossible for the larger ships to land a decisive blow. The new dawn and its fleet of human vessels danced through the chaos, hitting the Joran command vessels with pinpoint accuracy. In less than an hour, the Joran fleet was in disarray, retreating to the edge of the neutral zone, their command ships crippled. Holt's victory was not one of total destruction, but one of proving humanity's resolve. The Joran had underestimated them, and now the galaxy had seen what humans were capable of. The message was clear: humanity would not be cowed. They would fight for their place among the stars. As the Joran withdrew, the Council held its breath. Had the humans shown themselves to be the unpredictable force they feared, or had they proven that they were a force for something greater, something worth taking seriously? In the end, the Council would have to decide. The ball was in their court. The aftermath of the skirmish was a tense silence. The Joran fleet had retreated, battered but not destroyed, their pride wounded by the unexpected ferocity of humanity's defense. The new dawn had proven its worth, but the battle was far from over. The galaxy watched as the Council convened again, its halls now filled with questions and uncertainty. Captain Miranda Holt stood on the bridge of the new dawn, staring at the dark expanse of space. Her fleet had managed to hold their ground against the Joran, But that was just one faction, one powerful enemy. The Council was made up of many more species, each with their own agendas, fears, and histories. Humanity's victory was not yet complete. Holt knew that if the humans were to have any chance at a future among the stars, they needed to navigate the complexities of the Council's politics. As Holt prepared for the next phase of the mission, a transmission came through, a call to the new dawn from the Galactic Council. It was not an invitation to another meeting, but a direct demand for a diplomatic summit. The Council had made its decision. Humanity was to present itself, once more, not just as a potential ally, but as a future member of the Galactic Order. "This is it," Holt said to her crew, her voice steady, but filled with resolve. "We've earned a seat at the table. Now we have to show them we belong." The summit was held in one of the most sacred chambers of the Council, a vast hall that stretched across the heart of the Neutral Zone Station. It was a place where the most important decisions in the galaxy were made, decisions that shaped the very future of civilization. Representatives from every faction were present, their faces a mixture of wariness, curiosity, and calculation. Captain Holt entered the hall with her delegation of human diplomats, each one aware of the weight of the moment. The Joran were there, their insectoid figures standing tall and imposing, their eyes fixed on the humans with suspicion. The Xylan, their ancient and ageless faces unreadable, study humanity with silent contemplation. The Vertra, whose empathic abilities had given them insight into human intentions, seemed the least hostile. But even they were cautious. The air was thick with tension as Holt stepped forward to address the Council. The representatives from all corners of the galaxy turned their attention to her. She had known fear in her life, but this moment, the eyes of an entire galaxy upon her, was something different. This was a test, and it wasn't just about humanity's strength in battle. It was about something deeper, the ability to unite a fractured galaxy. "We stand here," Holt began, her voice clear and unwavering, "not as conquerors, but as learners, as builders, and as collaborators. We know we have much to prove, and we are ready to prove it. But more importantly, we are ready to join you, not in conflict, but in progress. We offer our knowledge, our resources, and our willingness to work with every species, whether we share similarities or differences. The humans of Earth do not come to divide. We come to unite." A hush fell over the room as Holt's words hung in the air. The Council had seen countless speeches, countless promises, but never before had a species, especially one so young, so new, spoken with such certainty, such vision. Holt knew that words alone wouldn't win the Council over. But this was a start, a bold step forward. After a long moment of deliberation, the first response came from the Vertra delegation. "Your intentions are sincere," one of their leaders said, their voice soft but filled with conviction. "And we feel that sincerity. Humanity is not what it once was. We will support your admission to the galactic community." But not all were convinced. The Joran, still seething from their defeat, were the next to speak. "This is a dangerous gamble," General Stack growled. "You allow one species to break free of the Council's control, and the floodgates will open. Who's to say others won't follow? What's to stop Earth from turning its weapons on us in the future?" Holt faced the Joran leader without flinching. "We are not your enemy," she said firmly. "And we will prove that, starting today." The room was quiet. The Council was divided, but Holt's words had landed. The seeds of doubt had been sown, and humanity had been given the first taste of acceptance. The next steps would be harder, the path even more uncertain, but one thing was clear: humanity was no longer the isolated species they had once been. They had a place at the table, and they would fight to keep it. The atmosphere in the Council chamber remained tense, even after Holt's words echoed through the vast hall. The Joran's objections had not been easily dismissed, and the Council was divided. Some factions, like the Vertra, were cautiously optimistic, but the Joran and certain other species still saw humanity as a wild card, something that had not been fully understood, something that could bring both incredible promise and catastrophic risk. The debate raged on for hours. Representatives spoke in measured tones, deliberating the consequences of granting humanity full membership in the galactic community. Captain Holt watched in silence, feeling both the weight of the moment and the uncertainty of what might come next. This was not just about diplomacy. It was about survival, not just for humanity, but for the galaxy itself. And then, as the sun set over the station's artificial horizon, a quiet voice cut through the noise. It was the Thailand leader, one of the oldest beings in the galaxy, her psionic presence filling the room with an eerie calm. Her translucent skin shimmered with ancient light as she stood and addressed the council. "Enough," that X-Island leader said softly, her voice carrying an authority that silenced the room. "We are not merely debating the future of one species. We are debating the future of the galaxy itself, and I believe it is time for us to evolve." She looked to Captain Holt, her eyes piercing through the human leader, as if she could see into the very essence of her being. "You are right, human. You have not come to conquer. You have not come to fight. You have come to build. You have come with a vision for a future that is greater than the sum of our individual parts." The Xylan's words struck a chord. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy's oldest species was speaking of something beyond self-interest. They were acknowledging that the status quo, this endless cycle of isolation and suspicion, was no longer enough. The galaxy could no longer afford to remain divided, no longer afford to dismiss new life, new ideas, simply because they didn't fit into ancient traditions. The Vertra, too, stood and added their voice to the growing consensus. The humans have proven themselves, not just through their defense of their world, but in their willingness to cooperate, to learn, and to contribute. We feel their sincerity. We stand with them. The Jorin remained silent, their leadership still staunchly opposed to the idea of humanity joining the galactic fold. General Stack's eyes flickered with rage, his insectoid features twisting with disdain. But even he could not completely ignore the weight of the decision that was unfolding. As the debate reached its zenith, the Vertra motioned for a vote. One by one, the representatives of each species in the room stood and cast their vote. The Jorin, unsurprisingly, cast their vote against humanity's admission, but the tide was slowly turning. The Thailand, the Vertra, and several other species voted in favor, recognizing that humanity had proven itself through more than just strength. It had proven itself through its willingness to adapt, to grow, and to contribute to the greater good. Captain Holt stood quietly, her heart pounding in her chest as the final votes were tallied. The room fell into a breathless silence as the results were announced. By majority vote, that X-Island leader said, her voice heavy with significance, "Humanity is granted full membership in the Galactic Council." The words hung in the air, and for a moment, it felt as though time had stopped. The Jorin leader's eyes narrowed in disbelief, but the others, the Vertra, the Thailand, the smaller factions that had supported humanity, nodded in quiet agreement. Holt's pulse quickened. The fight was far from over. There would be challenges ahead, no doubt. The Jorin would not easily forgive the humiliation they had suffered in the battle, and there were still those who feared what humanity's sudden rise might mean for the balance of power. But humanity had won a critical victory today, not on the battlefield, but in the halls of diplomacy. This is just the beginning, Holt thought as the chamber began to empty. We have a place in the galaxy. Now we have to prove that we deserve it. As the council's members filed out of the chamber, Captain Holt stood tall, knowing that the true work was only beginning. Humanity had earned the right to take its place among the stars, but now it was up to them to make sure they were more than just another species vying for power. They would have to prove that the future they envisioned was worth the risk, that their place in the galaxy was more than just a footnote in history. It was time to show the galaxy the true strength of humanity, not in its weapons, but in its heart. The days following humanity's acceptance into the Galactic Council were filled with cautious optimism and nervous anticipation. The New Dawn remained docked at the Neutral Zone station, its crew resting and preparing for the next steps in their unprecedented journey. Captain Miranda Holt stood on the observation deck, gazing out at the endless sea of stars, each one representing a world she now had to learn to navigate. The challenges ahead were daunting. Though humanity had earned a place at the table, there were still those who saw them as a threat, a species too young and too volatile to be trusted. The Shorin, in particular, had made it clear that they were not finished opposing humanity's rise. Their generals had already begun to rally their forces, speaking of a future where the balance of power could no longer be guaranteed if humanity's influence spread unchecked. But Holt knew that this was the nature of change. Resistance was inevitable. What mattered was how humanity responded. "Captain," came the voice of Lieutenant Garrus over the comm. "There's a transmission from the Shorin. They request a direct meeting with you." Holt sighed but didn't hesitate. The Shorin had made it clear that they weren't ready to accept humanity's place in the galaxy. But now, it seemed, they were willing to negotiate, or perhaps they were simply preparing for another confrontation. Either way, she had to be ready. "I'll meet them in the council chamber," Holt replied, her tone firm. "Prepare the crew. This is far from over." The Zoran delegation arrived aboard the station under heavy guard, their towering forms casting long shadows as they entered the meeting room. General Stack led the charge, his compound eyes filled with a mix of contempt and grudging respect. Holt stood tall as he approached, her demeanor calm and composed, her mind focused on the long-term vision for humanity's place in the stars. "You've made a grave mistake," Stack growled, his voice rumbling through the chamber. "We warned you, human. This galaxy is not a place for the weak. It is a place of power, of conflict, and you will find that your position here is precarious." Holt met his gaze without flinching. "You misunderstand, General. We don't seek power for its own sake. We seek progress, for all species, not just ours. Humanity isn't here to dominate the galaxy. We are here to build it, together." Stack's eyes flickered with something akin to curiosity. He hadn't expected such a response. For all their strength, the Shorin had long been locked in a cycle of war, of domination. They had never known the kind of unity that Holt spoke of. And in that moment, Holt saw the flicker of doubt in his gaze. "You speak of unity," Stack said, his tone less hostile now. "But unity requires trust, and trust cannot be earned in a day. Prove that humanity has the strength to hold its place here, and perhaps we will consider it." Holt nodded. "We will. We've already proven that we are capable of fighting for our future, and we will prove that we can stand by the ideals we speak of. But it is not just in the heat of battle where strength is measured. It is in how we build, how we collaborate, how we rise above our old ways." The Zoran leader seemed to contemplate this for a moment. The silence stretched between them, filled with the weight of unspoken thoughts. The galaxy had changed, and they both knew it. Humanity, once confined to a tiny, isolated corner of the universe, had taken its first bold steps into the greater community. They had shaken the foundations, but now it was time to show the galaxy that those steps were just the beginning. "I accept your offer," Stack finally said, his voice low but steady. "Humanity may yet prove itself. But know this, the Shorin will be watching closely. If you falter, we will not hesitate to remind you of the cost of failure." Holt's gaze never wavered. "We won't falter. And when humanity's light is shining across the stars, you'll see that we have more to offer than anyone could have imagined." As Stack and his delegation departed, Holt felt a sense of quiet resolve settle over her. This was only the beginning. Humanity had fought its way into the galaxy. Now, it would have to earn its place, not just with words, not just with power, but with a commitment to something greater. A commitment to unity, to progress, and to the future. The stars stretched out before them, an endless horizon of possibilities. And Captain Holt knew one thing for certain. Humanity's journey had only just begun.